we know Damian Lillard because, well, he played here for so long. And we know he's an honest man, generally speaking.
Yes. I think he was as upfront a star as you could have in the NBA.
Tell you what he can. He sat down with Chris Manix of Sports Illustrated for an interview. And boy, I tell you, these quotes are something.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they mean anything, but it does.
Gives you a glimpse inside.
It does let us know how he's feeling.
Yeah.
And it's not that great.
No, and look, it's not been terrible. They're 38-21, like a game and a half out of second place in the East, but it has not. They fired a coach, and there was Lillard is not having by his standards a great year by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, it's been a little bumpy.
Yeah, the Bucks are weird because they're just. I've never seen a team so good be this. I mean, they're not really dysfunctional, but there sure seems to be some dysfunction. Like they're just complaining. Like everybody's complaining. Even the new coach is complaining.
Yep.
And I've never, it's just weird. But I guess it doesn't truly matter. They're winning and they're actually getting it together since the All-Star break. So we'll give them time. They still have time. So here are some of the quotes. Sports Illustrated asks, "How would you sum up the last 5 months?" Damian Lillard, "It's been a real transition. Being in the same situation for 11 years, deciding to move on from that, wanting a chance to win, and then coming here playing for a first-time coach, and him being new to the team. So it isn't like I came to Milwaukee and everything was already established. It was a completely new staff. Obviously, trying to figure out me pairing with Giannis and being a part of this team, it's a process, and I think that's been an adjustment for both of us. He's used to playing a certain way. I'm used to playing a certain way, and I think we've had moments. I just think it's still a work in progress."
Yeah.
He said, "How about personally?" Or the question was, how about personally? He said, "Being away from my kids is tough. In Portland, my life was set up. My mom was down the street. My brother was the other way down the street. My sister was down the street. My kids in school. Just my whole life was set up perfectly right there. It was a great situation. So just leaving that behind alone is a lot. And then you add the basketball side to it, and it is what it is." I don't want to overstate it, but it sounds like you're kind of lonely. Lillard said, "It's definitely lonely because I'm such a family guy. My life is my family. After games, I would come out, and my whole family would be back there. My kids coming out of the playroom, my mom, my brother, my cousin live there. You know what I mean? My best friends live in Portland. So I would come out. We would go to dinner. They might come to my house. After practice, I might go to my mom's house and just chill. That's how my life was. So, I mean, I'm fine because I'm grown, but it's definitely lonely. I'm filled up by those people."
Yeah.
So then he says, "So what's your life like in Milwaukee?" And he said, "Well, just hitting those butter hogs, bro."
I don't think that's.
He's going to go get him one of those Milwaukee butter hogs.
Well, maybe he should.
No, that's not what he said. He said, "Bro, go to practice, go home, watch boxing, and play video games."
Yeah.
Man, I type in boxing website Fight Hype on YouTube 100 times and be praying for something new to be on there. Seriously, I don't have much of a life, but that's what comes with making a big boy decision. You got to be down for that and figure it out.
Yeah.
Then they asked, "I saw you back in October, your preseason debut against the Lakers, and you were really excited. Did you think this team was going to hit the ground running?" He said, "Well, I thought we were going to be how Boston is right now, but I think what I've learned is that some things take time, especially stuff that has reward in the end. You can't come into it and think that it's just going to be all peaches and cream. We've had our ups and downs. We've had a coaching change. I haven't completely settled into finding who I am on this team, and that's kind of a tough thing. I think any star who's been traded deals with it. Now that I look back on it, I would imagine LeBron James probably felt how I felt when he went to Miami. Not with who he is. I'm sure he knew who he was, but who am I within this team, and how does it look?"
Yeah, even LeBron, who arguably the greatest player of all time, and went to Miami with two other stars, and one of those stars had already been there. They didn't win anything that first year. It took them a little bit to kind of figure that out. And for all the not one, not two. I mean, they won a couple down there, but it's not act like he went down to Miami and it was just a seamless transition and they won every year. So I just think people undervalue comfort, and I can't to relate to many things about being Damian Lillard. But I do remember that when I was trying to make the NFL, like I was on a week-to-week contract. And so my family was back home and I stayed in like extended stay Americas. Like it is true. Like you didn't know anyone in Denver. I didn't know anyone in Tampa. And your whole life was indeed, at least Dame has like probably a nice place to go back to. But I do remember waking up, going to practice, being done with practice, and then going back to my little room and being like, well, yeah. And what I played video games and, You watched, and this was before YouTube and all that stuff. So I watched a lot of movies, and like you would literally try to find things to occupy your time, and you would think that, I'll just focus in on basketball, or I'll just focus in on football, and that's my whole job. But it's almost impossible to do, because you just get burnt out, and it becomes real lonely, and you twiddle your thumbs, and when you're not happy away from the court or the field, it's going to affect you on.
Yeah, he went on to say the Terry Stotts leaving hurt him a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of his guy to get the terminology, and he said that kind of set him back in terms of learning everything.
Yeah.
And then he also said that, when you have a relationship, he was asking about his relationship with Giannis, and he was like, well, I had a relationship with CJ in Portland and Nurkic, but it took time to blossom.
Yeah.
So he's just, we've always said this about Lillard. He's very emotionally mature.
Mm-hmm.
And he admits that, look, it was his decision. It was a big boy decision. And now it's a little rough, but we're fighting through it. And, that's honest. And he's also being honest about his relationship with Giannis. I think some people are making it out that, there's a problem there and there's something's not right. And, well, yeah, it's just not perfect yet.
Yeah.
And he's just saying we're still working on it. And, we're going to try to blossom just like I did with my guys in Portland.
I still contend that when they get their pick and roll figured out, that will be the most unstoppable duo in the NBA. And it's going to happen, which is why I said if you had one of those teams that I would say has a chance to kind of hit the playoffs and have everything click, I'm saying it's Milwaukee. One, the East is a much easier path to get through than the West is. And Milwaukee has a good roster. You would think that eventually, and you can say what you will about Doc Rivers, but Doc's been around the block. You would assume that eventually Milwaukee will get this thing figured out. And when they do, they have all the pieces you need to be really damn good. And they've put together some good wins recently, right? They just took down the Timberwolves. I know the Sixers, aren't much, but they who was the other one? They beat the Timberwolves, and I think they got the Nuggets, if I'm not mistaken, too. So, I mean, it's there. It's just like you said. It's a work in progress.
Yeah, he likens them to Jokic and Jamal Murray.
Yeah, I can see that.
He points out that they played together for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah,
and there were times when they struggled, and that's what Giannis and Lillard are going through. But he said they're both smart guys, and they both want to win, and they're both working on it. That's the key.
Yeah,
because a lot of times guys go the other way, and they get resentful or
you get all pissy and moany. But neither one of those guys, as you like to call them, are little bitches.
They're not.
No, they're both.
That's why I think that's a pretty good bet what you're saying there.
Emotional intelligence, whereas
I wonder. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I just look at like you brought up emotional intelligence, and on the other side of things, when Luka and Kyrie have been clicking this year, it's ridiculously good. But who you want to bet on, the emotional intelligence of Dame and Giannis or the emotional intelligence of Luka and Kyrie? Also, too, when you look at like ball usage rates, dude, there's like Luka is like number one in the NBA by far, and Kyrie can be this way too. I also think that when you are dependent, this is like the James Harden thing, when you have an offense or a team that's just built around putting the ball in one guy's hands, I think those guys can get worn out come playoff time. One, it's easier to stop because you can throw the kitchen sink at them over a 7-game series and actually devise a plan. And I think it's hard as you get into the playoffs. If it is on your shoulders, game in and game out, guys wear down when you're having to do it every other night. Or, I know in the NBA sometimes you get a couple days off, but you get into a rhythm there where you're playing every other night or an equivalent to that, and you're being asked to carry the load for 40 minutes a night, and you have the ball in your hands 75, 85% of the time. I just think that's a lot to ask over round after round after round, whereas a team that plays more of a team style ball, moves it around. That's why I love Jokic so much, is he doesn't have to score 40 to dominate his game. He can be a guy that's a distributor, and it doesn't have to go through him every single time, and he can still impact the game. And I don't think he wears down like some of the other guys, like I said, a Luka or a Harden, who, again, when you look at usage rate, it's off the charts with them most years.
Another interesting thought from the Vancouver Ford text line here, and I know we brought this up when Dame made his comments coming back to Portland about kind of what he missed and everything. It says if you're a Bucks fan, you have to start getting really disenchanted knowing that Giannis has signed up for the long term, but your other star is clearly not in love with the situation. How do you think management is feeling about this right now? Does this feel rectifiable? Like he's gonna get back on track where he's good with this?
Well, I mean, isn't that why they I mean, they already had a coaching change. That might tell you how they feel.
Yeah.
A little bit right there. It's like, man, we got to do something. We got to bring in a veteran to get these guys on the same page. So I don't know. I mean, it's a good point. I just, the thing about Giannis and Lillard, they've played 50 games together.
Mhm.
Okay, you were talking about Irving and Kyrie and
Luka.
Doncic. You know how many games they've played together?
How many?
46.
Yeah, it's about the same.
Yeah, and
Oh.
they look infinitely better together
Yeah.
than Lillard and Giannis.
They had last season and into the offseason, and so maybe there was some of that too.
Maybe, but
don't know.
again, same number of
Yeah,
fewer games.
fewer games.
They've played together.
Yeah.
I just wonder how Lillard would feel if he went to Miami. He wanted to go to Miami.
Wanted to go to Miami.
Milwaukee, I'm sure, is pretty boring.
As
he's pointed out.
he was comfortable there, and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. How do we put it? I think Dame had a life in Miami. How about that?
Yeah,
I think he had a.
he doesn't have one in Milwaukee.
No, he
I'll
does
tell you
not. I don't think many NBA players do, but
that. Giannis does, right? Isn't Giannis?
yeah.
Doesn't he love it there? Like he shows up to restaurants.
Yeah, supposedly, and he's got his gal
chills,
and all
nobody
that.
bothers him. It's Milwaukee. They're all like, hey, what's up,
Yeah,
man?
yeah, he's a different guy. But NBA guys often have a second or a third city that is kind of their secondary home, and you've got regular restaurants that you go to, and you spend time there in the off season, and maybe there's some
You got some hoes in other area codes.
yeah, there's some ladies, you got some guys, and and
Wait,
there's
some guys.
some guys to hang out with. You can't have just
Whoa.
the hoes, you got to have the boys too. It's the whole thing.
Didn't know that about Lillard.
Yeah, and I've heard that he was quite comfortable in Miami, which is one of the reasons why he wanted to go there.
Yeah, it'd just be interesting to hear what he would be saying
Yeah, if it was Miami.
if he were in Miami.
Yeah.
And how he would fit if he were in Miami.
Well, he did everything he could to get there, and he didn't. He landed in Milwaukee.
Very interesting scenario in Milwaukee.